Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review. I'm here today to talk to you about the Orville Season 3, Episode 3, Mortality Paradox. So this is one of those classic TOS episodes where they go on an alien planet and then all of a sudden everything's like modern Earth. And so I'm like, oh, okay, there probably ain't gonna be much sci-fi in this, but at least there'll be like a nice little, like, adventure and stuff. And it was. And it was a pretty interesting, weird, like, adventurous ride and stuff. And, I remember watching this episode, like, just a few minutes ago, and I'm just kind of like, well, where are they gonna go with this? What's gonna be the big twist? Because since they went to Hulu, like I said before, now they're a full 60-minute, like, hour show instead of a network 40-minute show. And those last 20 minutes are always tacked on where it's like this huge twist. And like, normally like a bunch of action happens. But this time it's like a huge twist. There is some action, but it's a huge twist that I did not see coming. That's something that harpers back to that of season 1. So I do like when they go back and they do a follow-up on something, which is something that's always bugged me about like episodes like Voyager, that they will be like one and done and normally never go back to. This is why I feel like this season feels more like a Voyager type show, where season 1 was the Next Generation, season 2 was Deep Space Nine, and then season 3 is more Voyager. In fact, it feels more like Voyager because, okay, the first 2 episodes, they had the older fashioned like scanning devices. This episode, the scanning devices look more sleeker and everything. So I could have sworn that they had the older versions. And of course, as you know, in Voyager, halfway during the series, they changed the tricorders and the phasers to match that of what was going on with, Deep Space Nine and stuff, with the upgrading in technology. And so that was kind of like a little interesting thing. Also, one thing I've been noticing about this, is it just me, or did like the people of Star Trek Discovery season 4 and 5, did they rip off the Orville's phaser pistol thing? Because you know how like they named it, the fans dubbed it the Dolphin phaser in like Star Trek now. It looks identical to that of what the Orville phaser is like. But anyways, so in this episode, Talia is like, coming back to the ship. She was just on Saleya and everything, and she's rendezvousing with the Orville. Well, as they like are, just doing their regular like space stuff, they get like a scan of a planet that's pretty far away. I think it was like 13 light years away or something like that, and it's supposed to be uninhabitable. However, all of a sudden now there's like stuff there. So as they go in there, she also mentions that like, a Kalon ship was like nearby her planet and this and that, and she don't know why. So when they go to the planet, when they scan it in their ship, they are very shocked to find out that there are infrastructures there and life forms, which is not supposed to be there because it's supposed to be basically like a desert. So of course they send an away team there. And as Lamar takes control of the ship, so it's gonna be the captain, Kelly, what's the name, Bortis, and Gordon. That's it. I keep forgetting his name, and Talia. And I'm just kind of like, I don't understand their away team type, like, crewmen, because you have 2 commanding officers, 2 tactical / security officers, and like, a helmsman and stuff. I don't get that. Because, it's Kelly and it's the captain. They both the 2 commanding officers. So it's kind of like if something bad happens, then like say both of them dies, And so then you have Talia, who's security, and Bortis, who I think is tactical, and those are basically the same almost. So why would you send both of those 2 down there? Now I understand why you were saying Gordon, because he's the one really good at flying the ship, but like still, you know what I'm saying? It would have made more sense to send Isaac there. However, there's a reason why, and there's a huge twist. So anyway, they're there. It's lush grass and trees and all this other stuff, right? And then as they're walking, they find a high school, a typical like our century high school. So they're very shocked and surprised. But of course, they're explorers, so they go in. The halls are empty. The door locks behind it. They try to open it. They can't. They try to phase it through it. They can't. Then all of a sudden the bell rings and there's tons of students coming around. So I'm thinking maybe they're ghosts or something like that. And so, but no, they're walking around them. And so like they're just like the students, they can see them and everything and they're interacting with them. And the students don't seem to be phased. They're just like going along with it. And so it's kind of like, well, what the world is going on here? And so like, so then they're just like walking around, they split up into two teams. Gordon gets separated and he gets like beat up by like a bunch of bullies talking about you better have Randy's money or something like that, or Rando's money. And so like he doesn't understand what's going on. So like Borders and them, they go into like a classroom. The teacher, is kind of like, can I help you? And then Talia's like banging on the window and they want to know what's going on. And so he kicks them out the room. They look for Gordon. And so they find him all beat up and everything. And his bruises are real. When they scan around, the people read as real. The building reads as real. So they're not understanding what's going on. Also, they lost communication with the ship once they went into the building. So then they went to the cafeteria, and when Borders went to go talk to, like, ask, can he sit down with these group of girls? They said no. And so I noticed that the blonde girl, the bully girl, she played a bully in Just Add Magic season, what was it? 3, I think it was. And so, like, they finally talked, and he's all like, he owes money to this dude, and they're just all kind of like, well, you better pay it and everything. And so it's just kind of like, what the world is going on? And so like, I noticed it like a callback to TOS type episode, but what is going on? I'm all like, am I really gonna sit a whole hour with just like, just them going to high school and stuff? So they go looking for the dude who's supposed to, who Gordon's supposed to pay money to. And so he gets introduced to who it is. It's a giant monster with a weapon in his hand. And I'm just like, what in the world is this? So then he attacks, he picks Gordon up, he starts shaking him around, and then he looks into Gordon's eyes, and then his eyes turn like fuzzy. So it's like, okay, this is some type of alien thing going on, And so like, what exactly is it? So it must be some type of like God-like entity. That's normally how it is in those old TSS episodes. So then they go back into the building, but all of a sudden now they're on a plane. And so now they're on the plane and they're asked to sit down, but there's a lot of turbulence. So Gordon knows a lot about old-fashioned planes. They bust into the captain's room and the cockpit, and nobody's there. So like, they take control of the plane. Somehow Gordon knows how to fly it. How? He's not even from that century, but anyways, I hate when that happens. So the plane is crash landing big time on like a mountain. And I mean, it's a nice crash. It reminds me of the crash from Star Trek Generations, and now one episode, I think it's called Timeless, of Voyager, when they crashed down on the ice plant, but they had better CGI this time, so it looks amazing. And so then all of a sudden, as they crash down on the thing, it's like tipping over the mountain. So then they leave there, and all of a sudden now they're in a weird like sci-fi looking room. So like, okay, we're gonna get some answers finally, right? No. Now they're in a Mocklin like morgue. Borders is checking everything around, and they see a dead corpse of like, Borders. And we learned a little bit more about the Mocklin. We learned a lot about them. Now we learn why they hang their dead up in the air. It's to like raise the dead and everything, and like all the celebration type stuff. So it opens up, and Borders is trying to kill Borders, the dead Borders. So they fight a little bit, and the eyes go like hazy. Also, or Borde's eyes go fuzzy again. And then so like, what's his name? The captain, his eyes go fuzzy too when he was on the plane. So it's kind of like, okay, what is going on? So that's all you can think about. Let's get on the ship now. On the Orville, Lamar wants the doctor and security team and Isaac to go down to the planet and see what happened to the away team. Isaac thinks it's not going to be safe because, you know, if the away team is hurt, then you risk sending their team hurt. And Charlie's all pissy and gives some attitude and everything. And so she's still hanging on to that. And so they go down there and they're not at the school. They're not in the grass and where trees. They're at the desert, like how it's supposed to be. So it's like, that's kind of weird. So they scan around and they see that people went on foot, but then Lamar orders them back to the ship. So then back to like the morgue thing. Now all of a sudden they're outside. They walk around, they're on Celea. They know it's a hallucination because the gravity would have killed them. And so they get on a gondola and they go towards, like, you know, where this flickering light is. Borders and the captain stay behind because the captain has a gash on his head. There's like a sea monster out there and it grabs Kelly. The CGI on that sea monster when it grabbed Kelly was so fake. It takes her down. She's almost drowning. Talia saves her, and then we see Kelly's eyes go fuzzy as they go back to the surface. Talia says her eyes went fuzzy too, but I didn't see them. So I'm like, okay, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And so, what is it? Then all of a sudden it kind of, I think it glitches out or something like that. No, something happens and I don't know. Something happens and they are in some type of like cave looking thing, I think. And no, I remember. The ground did something and it created something, and so they kept walking around and they find a device. Components are kind of like, they don't know. So I think they fire on it and then it busts, and then all of a sudden they're back in the desert and they're back with their shuttlecraft. And so they take the debris of like the technology and they take it back to the ship. They scan it and it turns out to be Kalon. So now they're all like, Kalon are using this type of like holographic technology to make you think you're all safe so they can come in and invade and everything. That reminds me of a Voyager episode when Species 8572 was doing that whole like Starfleet Academy thing. So I'm like, okay, so that's where this is going and everything, you know? So it's like, you know, so that's the big like twist, right? And so they tell like, you know, the admiral, and he said he's gonna send like a couple of fleet of ships, like a science vessel and some other ones to help them out. So then we see like, you know, a convoy of like Union ships, and the big one in the middle looks really big and it's like different shaped a little bit. And so Isaac's all like, sir, those are like, you know, Kalon ships. They're just like cloaked under the holographic field thing. So he's all like, he suggests they raise shields and fire. Well, of course, Charlie's all like, oh, it's some type of sleeper program in you, and you just want us to fire on our own ships and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. But then all of a sudden, the fireworks start. So it's an exchange of fire, and the ships decloak the holograms, and it's Kalon ships, and they're chasing the crap out of them, firing and all this other stuff. The ship is getting badly damaged, and then a ship is finna come and crash into them and kill them all. Then all of a sudden, it goes from that and we see a black woman sitting down at a console and she's talking to Lamar and the ship looks fine. I'm just like, what the world just happened? What happened to, I'm like, okay, they must be like in some type of simulation machine or something like that. But what is going on? Because everything looks fine. And the captain and the away team, they're like, you know, not on the bridge. I'm like, what's going on? Then all of a sudden, Talia is talking to them in the shuttle, talking about I'm ready to dock. And he's all like, what are you talking about? You literally came and docked like a couple of days ago or whatever. So I'm like, seriously, what is going on? So So then they're on the bridge and everybody's terrified. They think the ship is going to crash into their ship, but it's frozen. And some of the people are frozen. Then all of a sudden it glitches out and they're back on the desert. And then a woman appears who looks like somebody from Tron, but in a pinkish purple kind of way. So I'm all like, okay, there's our godlike entity and everything. She pretended to be Talia the whole time. And so I'm like, okay, so what is it she wants? What is it she was in for? This is like the last like couple of minutes and stuff. So this is what the new twist to the old twist in the last 20 minutes, right? And so then I'm all like, then she lays down another twist. I did not see this coming. It harpers back to that of season 1. She says something about like, oh, I know you, but you don't know me. And these people came down on my planet and we worship them as gods and blah, 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 blah. And time moved differently. Oh, that planet from season 1, that Voyager type episode where it's like 11 days pass on the planet, but only a few minutes pass in like, on real time and stuff. And she basically tells them 50,000 years has passed from their 2 years, and they have evolved to a point where they are literally immortal and they look all freaky dicky Tron looking and stuff. And she tells them that because now they're immortal, they are unable to process death and unsure of what it's really like. So what they did, they've been following the Orville crew for like years, just observing them and stuff, but they wanted to experience what true death feels like. So they made that simulation, and then as you're going through it, they can read your brainwaves and understand the fear in which you're going through. That was interesting and fascinating and everything. I was not expecting that at all. And I'm just kind of like, that ending made up for such a bizarre, wacky, like adventure episode and stuff. And, because I was just wondering, where is this going? Where is this going? This is going to be like a weird, lame episode or just like something like that. But no, that ending really paid off and everything. The look and design of the alien, how they evolved, how they became immortal, and how they wish they can experience one of the most scariest things of all, death. And so, like, she parts ways with them and tells them she'll meet them again. I gotta say that was just too fascinating. But of course, when you stop thinking logically about it, why didn't they help with the Kazon invasion and this and that? Well, of course, season 2 they just didn't come up with that concept and they didn't have the CGI. And so I'm glad they waited until now. This was like a really good episode. You watching it and you kind of just like, where is this going? But then once you find out where it went, then you kind of like, oh, okay, I get it now and stuff. Like, that was satisfying and stuff. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.